All right, I've built several dashboards in the past, and this is the most genius way to build a dashboard, bar none. Um, so I just wanted to share. A lot of the times, building a dashboard can be hard because when you think of building your app, you go, "Hell yeah, dude! I'm going to build the sickest dashboard." And then if you're not a designer, even if you are a designer, you start looking at it and you go, "Fuck, dude! How am I going to manage this state? Where am I going to put this button? Blah blah blah. What needs to be on this page?" And there's actually a much easier way to do it, and it all starts in Figma, or Miro, or Affinity, or fucking SketchUp. Not SketchUp, but Google Sheets. I don't know. Your choice of drawing tool. Anyways, what you do is we start out with our home page, okay, on your dashboard, and you're probably going to have some sort of dynamic variable in your URL. So something like customer ID, right? And then from there, you have separate pages. And so in this diagram here, green is a page, blue is a different view, and then yellow is state. So yellow is kind of like a query parameter, if you will. And what we have is, I want to show you something interesting first, okay? So this is Vercel, and I'm just going to go back to the observability. This is the default page for this. So we can see the URL is, I don't know why this tilde is here, but basically, or this is, I guess, the root of your, what the fuck is it called? Organization? Yep. You can see that in the URL, and then you can see we're at the root level, and there's nothing in the query parameters. But if I change this date filter here, so I can select these errors, I want to look at them, and I zoom in. Now if we go to the URL, we can see that we have two parameters here, question mark from and to. Okay, so those are the parameters. And just so you can see, this is how I've done this in the past, is at the layout of the dashboard, we had a date range provider. And if we click on this, we can see that basically, I don't actually know how this works, but it uses state management at the layout level to set the date range for the entire page, and so, or for all of the sub pages under this layout. And so this is one way to do this, and I was like, why does Vercel not use React State to handle the state of this page because they actually use URL parameters. And one thing that we'll notice here is that if we click on one of my organizations, it will preserve these query parameters, which preserves the date range, okay? And you could probably do this with a date range provider, but I believe there's a couple reasons that they do it this way. And this is something good to know, because when you're planning out your dashboard, you want to know what type of state do I have to preserve across each page, especially for more complex dashboards. Not like complex as in like, I build complex shit, but like complex as in like I have to manage a bunch of different use cases. And so for more complex dashboards with more use cases, you need to know exactly what kind of state you need to track at the start before you start building it. And so this is an interesting observation. I think that using query parameters is going to be better. So long story short, this is why this uses, well, this is partly why for the pages here we use query parameters. Also because you can use the same kind of page layout and then just swap out components based on what you actually need to gather. And the other thing is you don't need to have, so basically what this is going to look like is we have three different views here, and I'll just show you really quick. So it's going to be something along the lines of if, and then what do we have? If view equals locations, then we'll return our div, which will be basically like, it'll be locations view. So a component just like this, and we'll just drop that in, and we'll have a layout around that. But I believe this is better because I want people to be able to go, not have like an overview page, because I don't really see that as being necessary. I could do that if the view parameter is empty, but by default they'll land on the locations view, and they can it can easily like swap out this. So I guess this is kind of a up to personal preference. You could probably use a page here instead of like a query parameter, but I just prefer the separate views. And then we have each page, so under locations, phone calls, and users, you can click into a specific one to get more information about that. And I have the path planned out here. And then the state management. So we can see that on this level of the homepage, we're going to have current view, and this could probably actually be here. So we're going to have the current view. But then for all of these pages, we're also going to have the query parameter of date range. So that'll be from to start, end, something like that. I think that looks better. Obviously, it's just preference. But yeah, I think that planning out your dashboard like this is going to be so helpful. You don't even have to write code. I mean, obviously, you have to think about the code and think about, okay, when I'm forwarding someone to another page, how am I going to preserve that state? And then one benefit here, one of the key benefits that I asked about is if we come back here and go to my chat, see, I was asking Claude about this routing system, and it laid out some of the main benefits here. So one of them is shareable URLs. So if you had an internal state management that just kept track of the state for your session, then when you refresh the page, it wouldn't preserve, and also when you shared that link, it wouldn't preserve the date range. But with this, we can share only statistics from a certain date range based on what that user selects. You can also bookmark that. You can have it persist across like different refreshes and stuff. There's a few different benefits, and yeah, I think that, anyways, that's just like one point. I think that query parameters could be really useful. I think you have to, you need to have like some sort of 404 thing where if one of these query parameters is required, then like you have a default 404 built in. If someone tries to access like a query parameter that doesn't exist, or a page that doesn't exist, just a page that doesn't exist, it'll throw a 404 error. And so you have to handle that with redirects, or just show them the 404 if it's like, basically you don't want there to be a redirect or a page there. You want the user to know that they accessed a page that doesn't exist. Whereas with query parameters, they could still access that page without the query parameter. And so in this case, we have the view is going to be, is there a view? And if not, then it's going to be locations. And then you could also do, basically, yeah, you could do if view does not equal locations and whatever, then we would return that. Or we could just put an if statement here. Then we could basically just set the view to be like the default. So anyways, you do have to handle that, but the main kind of thing here is, I think it really is going to help to plan out your dashboards in advance using like a visual planner before you go out and build it. So